Welcome back to the discussion, the evolution of detection and response in the public sector, sponsored by Trellix on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guests today are Ken Carson, the Senior Vice President for Public Sector at Trellix, and Britt Norwood, the Senior Vice President for Global Channel, also at Trellix. Now, last segment, we were talking a little bit about the Zero Trust and the executive order. We learned what the difference between EDR and XDR, which was very helpful for me. Britt, I'm going to ask you to lead us off this segment to talk a little bit about this idea of threat intelligence and speed to understand what's happening on your network. That is not done by any one company or one organization. That's really a partnership that's got to be facilitated through a group. If we'll use your term channel a little bit, discuss why that's important and how Trellix kind of takes advantage of all their partners.
Well, let's go back to what Ken was saying in the beginning when we were talking about, I think you guys were talking a little bit about like threat and depth. There are just a number of products. There is no one, and as we said, it's not an architecture, but you got to realize that different products are going to play a different role. But when it comes to threat intelligence, it's like collecting all of that information and making sense out of it is where the real power of any kind of threat intelligence is going to come from. So it's really the roots of Trellix is in heavy threat intelligence. We have a whole threat labs organization that works with us that are constantly looking at what's happening in the cyber arena and helping us look at where the newest and latest and greatest threats are coming from. And as that lays with our partners, there's another thing that we really haven't talked about today, which is in cybersecurity, and I think even primarily in government work, it's a real talent shortage that's out there today. You just, the talent, there are like 2.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs right now, and that gap is getting worse and worse by the day. So we, with our channel organization, these are our value-added resellers, they're partners that are 100% focused on delivering solutions for the customers. So a lot of the work you'll see coming over the years, especially in the threat intelligence world, is going to be what can we automate? So a lot of the initial discovery, logging, analysis will get automated over time, which will help with that talent gap. But behind that, when it gets to the threat hunting and trying to figure out what's really going on, who's attacking you and where they're coming from, there is going to be a need in a lot of areas for augmentation of that service. So that's the real the opportunity for the channel that I represent coming over the next I would say really from now over the next 2 years is really being able to build practices around delivering those services and helping their customers understand how they're being attacked, be it public or private sector.
Britt, you brought up the workforce piece, and I definitely want to go down that path, but let me just take a half a step back for a second. In many ways, a lot of agencies face this. I have too many tools and I only use each tool 10% or 15% of their full capacity. How often are you sitting down with your clients to explain, hey, this tool from this partner does these 5 things as well that you're not using? Or, hey, if you combine this tool with that tool and put it into the dashboard, here's what better intelligence you can get. Are you having those conversations?
Well, not specifically along going through all of our competitors and our partner and alliances tools, but it's the real problem is that the customers are getting logging and they're getting information that are coming from all of these tools, and they're having a hard time consolidating. I'm seeing this from one of my tools is telling me this, another one of my tools is telling me that. These are actually correlated events that I could draw together to understand that I'm really being attacked or somebody's got access to my network. And so that's a conversation we're having. And one of Trellix's, to talk about us, we're a big believer and we need to have a platform that's open and native that can actually take all of those log feeds, normalize them, and then bring our threat intelligence and apply that to them. Because we hear that's the biggest problem is most people know they need these tools for a reason and whatever their function is. But what they're really struggling with is just making sense out of the bigger picture and being able to tie it all together.
Yeah, and I think, from my perspective, and I agree with Britt 1,000%. The automation is critical. There are so many events coming at us. And if you're in a SOC, even if you're using XDR and leveraging things like SIM SOAR capabilities, there is a talent shortage, and using artificial intelligence and machine learning in your products, in your capabilities, in your SOC is instrumental. You also have to take a look at, and our CEO is a big advocate of this, Brian Palma, on how we fill that gap. And we talk about doing soulful work at Trellix and what that means, and hiring at a different level. And, unfortunately, or, if you look at most of the people in our industry, they look like Britt and I. And we need to expand the efforts and bring others into our security ecosystem, into our industry. And we're making a big effort to do that, to fill those shortages, to fill those gaps, both through technology and through people.
Since you both brought up the workforce piece, let's jump into that a little bit more in more detail. One of the benefits of having partners like Trellix and others in the industry is that augmentation, because you're bringing in staff that maybe are trained in new or different cybersecurity capabilities and techniques, but it's also this idea that agencies are kind of getting that cutting edge. The shortage, the workforce shortage itself, is really one of the maybe the big benefits of this channel perspective that Britt was talking about.
Yeah, I think so. It's certainly an opportunity for companies that focus around this to be able to provide those augmented services to help any agency or again, a commercial customer solve these problems. So we absolutely see that as an opportunity. We also see a lot of our partners looking at doing it as a fully managed offer as well, so they can actually bring it in and just charge a fee, and then just handle the whole entire, what Ken's referring to as SecOps as a service, more or less. So that is certainly a very large opportunity in the channel. And to go a little bit further, though, Trellix is really committed to doing what we can to help fill the talent gap. And it's going to be a big thing we'll talk about at our upcoming our trade show that we'll be hosting in Las Vegas at the end of September, Trellix Expand. We're actually going to have a whole entire track dedicated to how do you go and find the new talent? Where are the pockets of greatness that we need to plug into? And how do we recruit those individuals to come into this industry? Because we strongly believe that diversity, different ways of thinking are going to have a huge impact as we go over the coming years. So that is certainly something that we're very committed to. As you can tell, that we're both very passionate about it as we speak of it.
Ken, one of the important things is we see agencies kind of move toward this managed service. And I hear a lot about it in other areas of managed services. I think a lot of agencies are finding this attractive, is that will free up their workforce, their money, their make things easier on them for more IT modernization and to really improve their cybersecurity through getting rid of legacy or really old technology. What are you starting to see around this move towards better, newer, faster, cheaper technology? And obviously, the other piece of this, of course, is not just cloud, but the fact agencies are always going to be living in this hybrid environment.
Yeah, so the hybrid thing is key. I think one of the attributes that we try to bring to the market is the ability to not just provide a cloud-based solution and give customers new capabilities that they've never had before to protect against threats, but to also integrate legacy-based solutions, data center, premise, hardware, whatever it may be, and be able to have a mixed environment. And when you're talking about SaaS solutions or managed service solutions, I really think it's all about scale and capability. When you think about whether it's the workforce shortage or these complex hybrid environments, the ability to centrally manage via cloud infrastructure and scale that out, and taking away the emphasis on customers having to buy databases and hardware to support the platforms and the management ecosystem and upgrading. This is why there is a workforce shortage to some respects. There's too much overarching emphasis on everything it takes to make these things work. So leveraging a cloud-based solution, a SaaS solution or a managed solution, it enables you to scale further and focus your capabilities on what your core competencies are and what your mission is. So that's extremely important. And that's a lot of, Britt brought up Expand. That's a lot of what we'll be talking about during our Expand conference at the end of September. It's also a lot of what we will be including in our agenda in our public sector summit in October 19th. So these are things we want to bring to customers and we want to bring them to light.
And we will make sure we add links to both the Expand conference and the October conference, and federalnewsnetwork.com, make it easy for folks to find and maybe even attend, right? Hopefully, right?
Hopefully, yes.
We would love to see that. We're ready to get past COVID and get to connect with our customers live again. Very excited.
One of the things you mentioned about the hybrid environment is the managed service can play a role on both sides of it, right? They can deal with the cloud challenges, they can deal with the on-premise challenges from a cybersecurity perspective. What are some of those questions you're getting from your federal clients, or even I'll throw it to Britt, when you look at the commercial sector, are they're much further along in managed services than the government is? Maybe start there with Britt and then move back over to Ken.
Yeah, well, I think it all goes back to just do this for me. You know, everybody knows that they need to have obviously a cybersecurity strategy, but you get into a lot of the customers that we meet with and that our managed service providers are selling to today. It's as simple as they realize they just don't have the expertise. You know, they're never going to be able to build out a Fortune 500 type of SOC. So they're actually saying, you know, can we just set up an agreement that you're going to be able to protect us and defend us? You'll be watching over our shoulders all the time. So a lot of the questions get into, you know, what are the SLAs in the service? Just a lot more about the actual service itself. And the customers they're very familiar with obviously Trellix growing out of the FireEye and McAfee legacy. They know who we are. They know what our capabilities are. What they're trying to do is just find somebody who can come in and actually just manage the whole, I mean, literally the name of it's a managed service, but obviously just keep an eye out for them so that somebody's watching over them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As we know that these threats have no timeline or no warning that they're coming. They just hit when they hit, and they need somebody to be there to help defend them. And, unfortunately, we're seeing ransomware accelerate. So it's becoming more and more prevalent across that whole entire space. And they're looking for easy, simple solutions to a very complicated problem.
And can maybe offer a little bit about, as well as from the federal perspective, why managed services is becoming more popular because of the hybrid environment?
Yeah, I think some of it's the hybrid environment. What I've seen over the last several years is companies like AWS and IaaS infrastructure, as it's been FedRamped at so many levels and impact levels, it's enabled customers to outsource not just their compute, but the services that exist on that compute. I'll give us as example. We're very common in that we build on top of an AWS infrastructure for our SaaS capabilities. And when we do that, we utilize the controls of a FedRAMP during our development process. It helps us both get to market very fast. It also helps customers in the ability to leverage our solutions in a managed type environment or a SaaS type environment. Whereas in the past, it was kind of the wild, wild west, and they didn't really know what they were getting from a managed service and how not just effective it is, but how secure it was.
Gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time for today. I very much enjoyed our conversation. So let me thank my guests. Ken Carsten is the Senior Vice President for Public Sector at Trellix. Ken, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
And Britt Norwood is the Senior Vice President for Global Channel, also at Trellix. Britt, thank you as well for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Jason. It was a pleasure to be here.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to the discussion, The Evolution of Detection and Response in the Public Sector, sponsored by Trellix on Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Trellix.